Pigment Ship Review. We're here talking about the privateer versions of several of the ships in No Peace Beyond the Line, the Sloop, Brigantine, and Fluyt. I'm Joseph.
I am Guy.
And I'm Dan.
Let's take a look at the privateer sloop first. So these are variant rigs of some of the standard ships in the game, generally a little lighter and faster. We all know the sloop. It's nice and quick. It goes against the wind well. Here is the privateer sloop, slightly different. It costs 13 points, which is one less. It has a top speed of 5 inches, which is faster than the sloop. It has sail settings of 4, 3, and 0 inches and anchored. It has a windward value of 0 and a turn value of 4, like the regular sloop, and a draft value of 5. It has a hull fortitude of 4 and an integrity of 4, which means it's pretty flimsy. Rigging fortitude is 3, 4, which is also pretty flimsy. Privateer sloop, just like the regular sloop, holds up to 3 pairs of light or medium cannons and the 2 and 4 swivel guns on its 2 decks. And it has the trait fore and aft rig, simple rig, sweeps 2, and the new one is swift, which we need to talk about. Privateer sloop may also take the upgrades shallow draft for 3 points and topsail for 2 points. So somebody want to talk about Swift real quick, because it's going to come back as we talked about these other ships as well.
Essentially, what Swift is you need to have someone assigned to the sheets and braces, and then as long as you're sailing large, which means the wind is behind you, you get to add an extra inch to your movement, which is why all these ships typically have a highest sail setting of 4, but a top speed of 5.
Right, so they can squeeze a little bit more speed out. And we should note you got all the rules correct there, but it's not what you see in No Peace Beyond the Line, which is where these appear. They just give you Swift for free, but the errata, that turned out to be too good. Guy was using it every single game.
In the early games or meta, where cannons were prohibitively expensive to properly arm your ship, and Swift was just a bonus for sailing large, Swift was too good. The privateer sloop itself, in a 200-point game, dominated because it meant that you got to go 5 inches when you're sailing large, 4 against the wind. Nobody brought cannons, really, because at the time you couldn't take away your sailors' pistols, and you had to pay full price for each cannon that you were putting in a pair instead of the new discounted errata. So nobody brought cannons in 200-point lists unless they really wanted to use them, and even then, they weren't bringing a lot of them. So the privateer sloop was a tear.
Yeah, so then they errated it to make you have a unit on the sheets and braces, and the way that works is you have to assign a unit with at least 2 models per deck on the ship. Is that correct? So at least 4 models for this sloop, and then they're just stuck working the sails. They can do some advanced maneuvers and whatnot while they're on the sails, but they can't really do anything else. But then you get this speed. So that increases the cost of the ship. Say you put 5 men on here at 3 points each, that's 15 points in addition to your 13-point ship. And that has turned out a lot better. You can take the guys off when you get into battle, so it's not as bad as it sounds, but it's not a no-brainer to take this anymore. It is an interesting ship, but it's not dominant, which is good.
It's not always better and cheaper than a sloop. And cannons are more common now that they're
a little cheaper. Yeah.
Cheaper. So it's kind of it's balanced a lot. I still believe that a privateer sloop is the choice if you want to run a musket sloop or a boarding sloop, or there's a lot of other different things that a privateer sloop can do. And the new rules also makes the privateer brigantine really not that bad for larger different games.
Yeah, I think this is a great ship for if you want to be the attacker and board. You can bear down on somebody pretty quick. Even if you aren't going windward, you can, even especially with this ship with a 0 windward, you can use your sailing master to get a 5 speed going upwind because you have that top speed higher than your sail setting. So yeah, really good ship. 1 point cheaper. There's no change you have to make to your rigging to make this accurate, so that it's the easiest one to really use. Some of the other ships changed the rigging a little bit, but you mentioned the Brigantine. Can you walk us through that one?
Of course. The privateer brigantine costs 15 points and has a top speed of 5 and sail settings at 4 inches, 3 inches, 2 inches, and 0, along with anchored. It has a windward value of -1 and a turn value of 3 inches. It has a hull fortitude of 4 and a hull integrity of 5, which is the same as a regular sloop, and its rigging is fortitude 3 with integrity of 5. Its draft value is 6. The privateer brigantine holds up to 4 pairs of light or medium cannons, and 2 of them being on the middle deck and 2 being on the poop deck. Additionally, it can carry up to 6 swivel guns, with 4 being on the foredeck and 2 being on the poop deck. It has the traits Hybrid Rig, Stay Sails, Sweeps 2, and Swift. The Privateer Brigantine may also take the Shallow Draft trait for 3 points. So this is pretty much a Brigantine. The exciting thing about it is that it has Swift.
And it's top speed of 5.
Yep.
And it's a bit flimsier, integrity 5 instead of 6, but that's about it, right?
Really not that bad to have integrity 5 instead of 6.
I would say it's not terribly flimsy. Again, it's got the same fortitude as like a regular sloop, and they tend to be pretty hardy unless you get into like bigger point games. It's definitely not the the 4-4. That's terrible. That's a tinderbox. I think it's got a little bit more staying power.
The hybrid rig, it's kind of a weird rule. It's getting a bit of a buff in Raise the Black to help it out a little bit. Right now, you get to move 2 inches with the hybrid rig upwind, which isn't very fun. I like the speed, and that's basically what you get out of this.
A little cheaper than a regular Brigantine as well.
1 point discount.
And then I'm going to go ahead and bring it home with the Privateer Flout. It costs 15 points, has a top speed of 5 inches, and has its sail settings at 4 inches, 3 inches, 2 inches, 1 inch, 0 inches, and anchored. It has a windward value of -2 and a turn value of 3 inches. The draft of this ship is 6. It has a hull fortitude of 4 and a hull integrity of 5. Its rigging has a fortitude of 3 and integrity of 6. The Privateer Flout holds up to 7 pairs of light or medium cannons. It's got 2 pairs on the foredeck, 2 pairs on the middeck, 2 pairs on the rear deck, and then it's got 2 mounted chasers on the poop deck subsection. It can also carry up to 6 swivels, with 4 being mounted on the forward deck and 2 being mounted on the rear deck, just like the Privateer Brigantine. The ship has the traits Pink Stern, Whipstaff, Chasers, Easy to Handle, Poop Deck, and
Swift.
The Privateer Flout may also take up to 2 fighting tops as an upgrade for 2 points each.
I don't like this ship.
Flout is probably the worst of the 3.
But you were singing the praises of the Flout in our video. You love it.
I tried hard. Well, in this one, if you're looking for speed and you only can go 2 inches upwind, I don't think it's accomplishing its goal. So the Flute's okay, but trying to make the Flute a privateer ship seems difficult.
I think it serves the same purpose as the regular Flout does, in that it is a big ship for a small game. And I think that the 5-inch movement makes it an excellent boarding platform if you're the attacker.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing with this, is you want to make sure you're playing a force that is going to be the attacker, because if you're sailing downwind in this, you have lots of advantages going for you, especially with the musket units on the rear deck. You can just use elevation and pepper them off while you're closing in.
It will be fun to see a Flute go 5 inches. I don't know if I've ever done that. I've done 1 inch. I've done 2 inches. I've done 0 inches, but I'm not sure if I've done 5.
Of these 3, I think I like the Privateer Sloop the most. I've used it the most. The next is the Privateer Brigantine, because if you're going to have a unit that you're attaching to the sheets and shrouds, then kind of with the Privateer Brigantine, you can use that hybrid rig a little bit, because they'll get a free change sail settings every turn.
So you can pop it down when you go upwind and get that easy tacking. That's right.
Yeah, if you're going to put somebody on it, the other ships being easy to handle doesn't really, like, having a unit on the sheets and shrouds doesn't do that much for them.
Dedicated anyway, so yeah. Yeah, I would agree. The Privateer Sloop is the best. We should mention you can get cards for these Privateer versions. There's a card pack available for Firelock Games that has all the alternate rig ships, these 3, and the Merchant Frigate, and the always popular Sloop of War.
Yep.
And the Heavy Bark.
Yeah.
So that's a nice pack of cards to pick up. They can give you some more options for using your existing ships in a new way.
It's fun. They used to be kind of an exclusive. So pick it up while you can for the No Peace Beyond the Line card selection.
I'm going to be the black sheep here. I like the Privateer Brigantine the best out of the 3 of them.
Ooh.
I think that the trade-off for hull integrity isn't as terrible as it is with the sloop, and it still packs enough guns to be used, again, in a nice grape shot boardy list. I think that the Brigantine is going to be more forgiving if something goes wrong and you get shot up with cannons. I think that the Privateer sloop, you definitely just want to beeline in as fast as you can. I think the Brigantine gives you a little bit more options to maybe stay back running a musket list or something because the whole fortitude isn't terrible. Whereas on the sloop, you could be reduced to tinder boxes if 2 bad moves.
That's true. Although it's only 2 more hit points, so it's not a lot, but it helps.
But I will sing the praises of the Privateer Flout because I like what it does on paper, and if you play the Dutch Navy, you then get to have a heavily built Privateer
There you
Flout
go. That might be good.
with shallow draft as well. Like, it's almost like if you play the ship with the nationality it's supposed to, it's awesome. But yeah, I agree. It's basically the Flout is you want to be the attacker. The Privateer Sloop, I think in small games, it really compares, especially if your opponent's bringing a Corvette or a Tartana or something. I think that's the scale you're looking for because then you're all the same fortitude. But otherwise, I think the Privateer Brigantine is my favorite. Just because it seems like the least.
The other secret sauce with all of these is that they're all 1 point cheaper than the regular versions, which if you make a list and you're at 201 points, you can very easily slide into the Privateer version.
That's a good. I have done that quite a bit. I hate it when I have 1 point over and I can't. The points don't work out to just swap a model from one unit to the other. That is a nice option.
And with the assignment rules, a unit that has muskets that's on the sheets and shrouds can shoot on the sloop if it has at least 8 models. So they can do a half shot if they have 8 models.
Well, let's not mention assignment rules because they'll probably change every other month after this video is released. So, but the assignment's not a big deal if your goal is to run in and attack, because you can just pop the unit off the assignment with a regular action. So it's very expensive, but you get the unit most of the game anyway. So
go out and try these ships.
yep, nice variation, and I think boarding is kind of a popular. It's probably the strongest strategy in the meta right now, so these are perfect for that.
Yep.
For more Blood and Plunder ship overviews, you can go over to bloodandpigment.com and check out all our articles there. We have a review of every ship in the game and articles on nations and factions and terrain building and painting guides and battle reports and strategy guides and campaign articles. Check it out there.
Check out the rest of our YouTube channel as well. We'll be aiming to put out a video every Monday. Subscribe and ring the ship's bell so you can stay notified of our uploads.
As always, keep your dice ready, the wind at your back, yar har.